Which one is hotter? Okay. Thank you very much.
We are so pleased that you're here, Paul. You are a world-class person who has done work not only in education reform here, but across throughout the Americas. And we are so pleased that you're here. I'd like to ask you just to kind of introduce yourself to this group and talk a little about some of the things that you would like to see happen.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for coming out in your kind remarks. I got to see the Kennedy Room. It was a real treat. I'd like to thank the board and their courtesy and appreciation, and of course the honor of inviting me in to help Bridgeport move forward in improving the schools. And I want to thank the community for coming out, particularly those individuals who came out and they greeted me and exchanged their cards. I ran some pretty large districts, so there's no reason for me not to be accessible. So if people need to see me or want to meet with me, given the fact that of my 3 sons, 2 are in the Marine Corps and 1 is a senior, I will be spending my time here, living here, so I have plenty of quiet evenings to meet with people, and my wife will want to know that I am working in the evening instead of being at home in Chicago. So, so the bottom line is, do not hesitate to reach out to me and to contact my office, to contact Lisette, not to overwhelm her. I'm going to be very flexible. Anyone who needs to meet me, either individually or as groups, I want to be as accessible as possible. I get energized. I really enjoyed that part of the job. I kind of missed that part of the job over the last few months as I concluded my business in New Orleans. So once again, I want to thank you all for coming up. Just a few general comments about myself. I got started out as a certified teacher and moved into working for the legislature, focusing on the elementary and secondary education committees, both in appropriations and substantive. So I've been involved in education issues for a long, long time. And then I later moved into public policy and finance, where I came to the attention of Mayor Daley, who invited me, the other Bridgeport mayor, who invited me to Chicago to fix his finance department and later to fix his budget. And in 1995, when the mayor took control of the schools, he appointed me school superintendent. Arnie Duncan actually got his start in the Chicago Public Schools, running a charter school during my tenure. He was actually my deputy chief of staff. So I did that for 6 years, and after 6 years, when the state took over the Philadelphia school system, I was invited to Philadelphia to become superintendent there, where I served for 5 years. And the second year after Katrina, when they were really struggling, getting schools open, getting schools built, securing FEMA money to rebuild a city that was devastated because of the hurricane, Senator Mary Landrieu and Governor Blanco invited me to New Orleans to take responsibility for Recovery School District. They actually called me and asked me if I could recommend anybody, and I said, what about me? So I got to go to New Orleans for 4 years. And just so you know, I just want to reassure you, I wasn't off the hook when it came to basic parenting, because every place I went, my wife sent one of my sons. Usually the son was giving her the biggest headaches. So I was able to serve for 4 years. I came with a commitment to serve for 2. I actually stayed for 4. If you Google me, you get the good, the bad, the ugly. But one thing is undeniable. It's our capacity to balance budgets, to build new schools, to secure federal funds, and to improve student achievement. I've also been a superintendent that has never had a strike, has never had a contract go to arbitration, has never had significant grievances, and has always been able to work with the unions and all the school partners in a very constructive way and a very effective way. So at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. In the last 4 years in New Orleans, in the schools in New Orleans, no school district in the state has matched the Recovery School District in terms of academic improvement. And for those of you who may think that we did a lot of chartering in New Orleans, let me point out that many of the public schools chartered themselves, because after the earthquake, or after the hurricane, I'm getting my crises mixed up. After the hurricane, there was such a delay in getting schools open. Many public schools went out and they reopened themselves. But the Recovery School District also intervened in the did school improvement and took over failing schools outside New Orleans, very few of which were chartered, and those schools generated the second fastest growth in the state. So the bottom line is we've had success with all sorts of schools, and we expect no less now. Bob and I have talked about a lot of things, about funding for schools, the need for additional funding, things of this nature. My job here is not to make excuses. My job here is to get results. And I would not have taken on another district had I not had the confidence that I can make a contribution to the city of Bridgeport. But I'm not going to be able to make that contribution in a vacuum. My plan, or my strategy is very simple. Number one, to immediately begin the work to figure out how to financially stabilize the district. The district has a large budget hole that needs to be closed, and it needs to be closed not at the expense of the children. So there needs to be, we need to find a way to not only close that budget gap for this year, but the district really needs a long-term financial plan so that schools have stability. This feast or famine type budget, this constant spiral of budget cuts after budget cuts after budget cuts, it destabilizes schools and it adversely impacts the school environment. So it's so critically important to figure out what we have available over the next 5 years and to design an education plan that can advance academic performance with the resources we have. We need more resources, but but I'm not here to spend a year and then to claim and then go back and to say I can't improve test scores because I don't have enough resources. We're here to make the schools better. Hopefully we can make a case for more money, but the bottom line is I'm not going to use the absence of funds as an excuse for moving the schools forward. So the first order of business is to work on balanced budget for this year, but more importantly, to come up with a multi-year financial plan so that there is stability in the district. The second objective is to develop a long-term educational plan. And while there's some things that we need to do immediately, Sandra and I are going to not only look at the operations of the central office and the central administration, we within a month will have gone in and assessed and evaluated every single individual school to try to find things that the schools can do this year to finish the year strong. So we're not going to hesitate. We hope that within 4 to 5 weeks we'll have our short-term plan for the district, and we will have at least identified what the strengths and weaknesses are and the needs of the district, so we can begin the process of public discourse and public discussion on what is going to be needed to implement a long-term plan to move the district forward. We can't do this in a vacuum. We have to do this in a partnership. So we're not going to waste any time. But we want to present the community with options, and we want to build upon the work that's already been done, work with the committees and organizations that have already been working on school reform, and really design a long-term strategy for the district that will guarantee that other districts in Connecticut are looking to Bridgeport as a model for what's going to be done when you have a united community and when you have seasoned education veterans driving the education reform process. And then the final thing is to really begin the search almost immediately to begin to identify potential great candidates who can come in and fill the administrative positions from superintendent to chief financial officer, chief accountability officer, long term. Not that we're going to pick who those individuals are. What we're going to do is we're going to begin identifying and recruiting and screening potential candidates that we can present to the community that are not going to come in and take over and take responsibility for a district that is in financial distress, a district that is unstable, a district that has no concept of what it intends on doing and what its strengths and weaknesses are, what its needs are, but rather a district that is financially stable, a district that has options, and a district that clearly knows where its strengths lie and where its resources are identified and what the critical needs are to move the district forward. So those are the things that the board has tasked me to do, and I'm not going to be able to do it in a vacuum. As Bob pointed out, Sandra Case is going to come in to be my chief administrative officer. Sandy is legendary. When I learned a lot from Sandy, and many of my curriculum instructional reforms were a product of her experiences as head of the Chancellor's District. Look her up. This is the age of Google and internet. She's an extraordinary educator with extensive experience, and she's also an educator that has been able to effectively work with school reformers, school traditionalists, well, we're all reformers, the school unions. She has a legendary right. She knows, I call her the Iron Lady, because she goes in and she knows good instruction. So she's going to be a huge asset. And as Bob pointed out, I've said that I can't get paid more than the current superintendent. I'm not getting any other perks, no bonuses, no transportation allowance, no housing allowance, none of that stuff. I'm going to bring my little beater Toyota from Chicago out here, hopefully, through the snow. So the bottom line is we will, and Sandra will be coming into the slot held by the current Chief Accountability Officer I've referred to, and former Chief of Staff. So we will move into existing slots, and we'll be compensated on a day rate. So I'm going to continue to be involved in the Haiti project, because I need to do my penance for having lost to Rod Blagojevich when I ran for governor in Illinois. And yes, I'm the guy who lost. Yes, I'm the only ran lost. And but no, it's a project that I've been engaged in. A project that does not consume too much of my time. And the great thing is, our holidays are not Haiti's holidays, and vice versa. So there's going to be plenty of time and plenty of flexibility for me to basically work on this project. But Sandy and I are really going to jointly run the district, and so we will always be here. And in the event that Sandy has to go back to New York for an engagement, or I have to go to Washington to lobby for more funds, or I get an emergency call to go to a meeting in Haiti, Sandy will be here in my stead. And because we're day raiders, so to speak, I will do what I did in New Orleans when I began working in New Orleans. For any day I spend in Haiti will be a non-paid day. So we're going to follow those rules, and we're going to follow those rules strictly. But I have great confidence in the ability of this community to move forward. And a lot of times, what I will bring to the table is more of an individual who will remove obstacles. I like to say the school reform movement in New Orleans wasn't a product of my reforms. I was down there to remove obstacles. The reform in New Orleans was a train leaving the station. I was the caboose, and as you know, the engineers are on the caboose. They keep that train running just in case it gets thrown off its tracks. So in many respects, a lot of good things have been done here. So many good things. The community has organized. Clearly there's differences in every community. Believe me, there were divisions in Chicago and Philadelphia. Those were takeovers too. But I'm just here to make the schools better. One thing that will be guaranteed on this outcome is that the schools we leave you with will be better than the schools that we inherited. So once again, I probably ran longer than I should have. I appreciate you all coming out this morning, tonight. I look forward to having an opportunity to meet with you collectively or visually at your convenience. And I'm thrilled to be here. I'm ready to have a great time getting to know you all and really learning more about the Bridgeport community. Thank you very much.